taught me how to live. Daddy taught me how to give. Both of them had their own sins. Down to the river, every man has felt the shame. All our blood, it runs the same. Father, hear us as we pray. Down to the river, down to the river. Sing, oh, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, oh, far beneath, oh, oh, fire and water me, going down deep, singing, oh, oh, bury me, carry me, oh, oh, far beneath, oh, oh, fire and water me, washing me clean, carry
Hi, welcome to Cryptid Wilderness Research Podcast. I am Daniel Becker up here in Anchorage, Alaska. And joining me as always, my fellow host in Quincy, Washington, Matt Slater.
Hello.
How you doing? How's it going, man?
Doing great. It's a little bit cold here. It's down in the 20s now today.
Here in Anchorage, it's in the single digits, and I am feeling it.
Ouch.
Today, we have a great show in store for you. We have Tom Coburn from Hessen, Germany. He has a YouTube channel. It's called Trails in the Woods, Searching for the European Wildman. And I've been looking forward to this episode because I don't really know a lot about Sasquatch activity in Europe.
Yeah, it just goes back before medieval times. And stories, myths, legends, even fairy tales.
Yes, definitely. So without further ado, let's bring him in. Tom Coburn from Hessen, Germany.
Hello.
How you doing, man?
Hello. Good, thank you. Yeah. Nice to be a part of your show, and thanks for reaching out.
Thanks for taking the time to do this. I know it's in the evening there in Germany.
No problem.
Here it's in the morning. So Tom, tell us about Sasquatch activity in Europe, because honestly, I don't really know a lot. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and give us an education on Sasquatch activity in Europe?
Yeah. So I've been living in Germany now about 11 years. I come from the UK, Staffordshire and Shropshire on the borders there. And growing up there, it was always ghost stories, and I was, raised to hunt and fish, trap, and track and things like that. We owned a lot of property over there, like a lot of land and woodlands of our own. And from a very young age, I was always out hunting. My parents were big hunters, but I was raised. Like I say, there was a lot of ghost stories. We lived in a really old house where a lot of strange things were happening. UFOs, things like that happening. There is a cryptid in the UK of the Black Panther, which I'd seen when I was a young boy across the field with my sister there.
Oh wow!
And people used to have them as pets, and they let them go in the 80s. They brought out a license, but you could buy them without a license before, I think, 1986, and then they passed a law, and a lot of people just let them go. This is quite a big thing, and people are quite often seeing them these days.
Oh wow! I never knew that.
Yeah, they've even got eDNA from them now. Finding them in the water. There is big cats there. And my mother, she was always into ancient man, different hominins, and she taught me a lot about migration paths and the different hominins and things like that. I was kind of always into Bigfoot. It always kind of made sense to me. with knowing about the hominins and things like that. Then I moved to Germany about 11 years ago. Put all of my spare time into being out in the forest, and started to notice footprints, big structures. I used to just go out for, photograph birds with my girlfriend, but now I just solely go out to look for signs of Sasquatch, and I find it a lot. And then about 2 years ago, I really just decided to try and collect as much, research and document it as much as I could, because it is everywhere. It really is. All of the European countries have a different name for it. From Spain, this is the Bazajuan, to the Caucasus Mountains, the Almasty, you call it there. Germany, it's the Wildman. You go up into Scandinavia and they call it like the Troll. Even UK have their own legends, the Woodwoes of England. And then going up into Scotland, you've got the legend of Ben Macdui, which is the Grey Man. So it's all over really, and these stories go back, probably thousands of years. And in medieval times, they really started to write down the stories, and there's quite a lot of stories about it, really. Yeah.
So when you're talking about England and Scotland, tell us about some of the things that you saw out in the field there.
Sasquatch related.
Yeah.
You're finding a lot of structures in the forest there. We found up in Scotland a large oak tree in the middle of a pine forest, all pine, and then just a single oak tree, huge thing, probably 200-300 years old. And leaning up into this were these huge pine trees, upside down, some of them with the roots in the air. I was with my friend at the time, and we were finding prints, probably 16, 17-inch prints there in moss, and I know if you've walked on moss, this is like sponge. Most of the matter here is pine needles or a beech leaf, and it's like walking on sponge. It all is, and you barely leave a trace. But these prints are deep, often very deep into the matter. 17-inch prints. And that's found, like I say, up in Scotland, and I can go out in Germany and probably find a print every time I go out, or a set of prints. It's big. Once you know what to look for, it's everywhere.
Now, there in Europe, have you found people are a little bit reluctant to talk about these things, or are they open to it?
They're very reluctant. In the UK, they're a bit more open because there's so many ghost stories people will come forward with, or UFO sightings. I've had loads of UFO sightings in the UK. It's a very common thing. People are a lot more open there. In Germany, they're not open at all. They don't talk about it. The forests here are very well kept, so people stick to the tracks here. They never wander off into the forests like I do. I've never seen anybody off the beaten track. People don't go out at night into the forests. You just don't see it. I don't go out at night into the forest here. It's just too creepy, and I do my research alone. So, it gets a bit, when that sun starts to go down here, it gets intense, very intense. And the forest here is so big, full of wild boar, thousands of wild boar. We've got wolves.
Geez. Yeah, that's another thing I did not know.
Yeah, we don't have bears though, unless you go more east into Poland, Romania. You get bears there, but Germany haven't had any bears for hundreds of years. One did cross about 10, 20 years ago from Poland into eastern Germany, but they kill them. You know,
So when
fortunately.
you started doing your research in Germany, did you just happen to come across some Sasquatch tracks, or were you in an area that you had heard there was some Sasquatch activity? So that's how you ended up there. How did you first come across your first signs of Sasquatch in the area?
Yeah, you know, I was finding bits like I say, in Scotland whole life, and I'd been hearing stories. So as soon as I was out here in the forest, you know, I was always looking out for signs, prints. But you know, I was looking for prints of anything. You know, because I don't hunt anymore, but I've always liked to track, even if it's deer or boar. You know, I'll go out and track it. It's an old habit, you know, I suppose, an old kind of rush, you know, um, keeps the skills, you know, up to date. But, you know, it wasn't long until I was finding these huge prints. I knew straight away what they could only be. You know, I'd always known about Sasquatch and Bigfoot. So when I was starting to find these big structures, and some of them really small, um, you know, it was pretty automatic. Like, I never recorded any of it. Just all mentally. The past 2 years, like I say, I've really started to document it and try and, you know, video as much and write it down as much as I've found. You know, in like a journal, measurements, things like that. You know. Yeah.
Have you heard any vocalizations while you've been out there in the woods?
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I go out into the forest now, you know, I did have well, I've had 2 sightings here, and since then, before this, I was always hearing wood knocks. This was common to hear wood knock, and now I can step into this one location. Probably within 10 minutes, I'll hear my first, you know, very clear wood knock. Vocalizations, as in, you know, proper vocalizations. In the Harz Mountains is where I do some of my research. This is a huge mountain range of pine forests. They've had quite a few sightings of Wildman there. Even a legend. There's even a village named after the Wildman there called the Wilderman, where they'd killed one, and they named the village after it. When I was there, I heard a female chatter really deep in the forest. It was very fast. I know people call it samurai chatter. It was very similar. It hadn't got the high tones, the low tones. This was quite, you know, one level. It was very fast chatter. I'd never heard any animal like this ever. I heard that in the Harz, which is about, you know, 40 minutes to an hour drive away from me. Locally here, I've heard exactly the same, but from a very low male voice, and that also I could hear, you know, bipedal footprints coming up behind me there. They were identical, but they were just, one was very high pitched female tone, one was very low pitched male tone. You know, so that's the only 2 times I've heard it, and then I've never managed to get it on, you know, video or recording. You know, I'm trying to up my game a little bit and get better microphones and stuff like that at the moment. You know, so matter
Well,
of time.
still, that's awesome that you were able to those vocalizations
Yeah,
and be there for that. So you mentioned that you've had 2 encounters yourself.
yeah, I've had 2
Tell us about
sightings.
that.
So one was as clear as day. There was no mistake. 100%. What I saw. You know, I think about this every day. When I saw, and the second sighting, I think it was the same creature. The second time, I think it was the same Bigfoot. They got the same color fur or hair. You know, there's a valley in the forest near me here, and I'd been there probably 2 years ago. I'll tell you the whole story. It's a bit long, but it kind of builds
Go
up
for it.
the sighting, which was actually at the end of the day. There's a stump out in the forest there with this fox skull sitting on top of this stump. And I by chance about 2 years ago stumbled on this, and I thought it's probably some person's put this fox skull on this stump. Been there a long time, it's got moss growing over it. And as I'm looking at this and I'm taking pictures, this is before I was filming anything. I was just taking pictures. I'd heard the most clearest, closest wood knock I've ever heard. And I remember running back. My girlfriend, she was taking some pictures of birds up the track. I ran back to her, frantically, like, "Did you just hear that?" And she heard it. She's not really too bothered about it, or she loves birds, So, I tried to find this track. It's down an old loggers road, really old loggers road there, very thick with fir trees and pine trees. And I tried to find this for 2 years again because I wanted to go research this area on my own. I just get panicked when I'm out there with my girlfriend in case you hear all these horror stories, people going missing and things. So I got back there in the winter time, December. It's 3 foot of snow on the ground. I got no chance of finding this little white fox skull, so I couldn't find it, and then I gave up finding it. I crossed there's a main road that splits the mass of the forest there, and I've been finding all these broken pieces of bone, and they were fresh, very fresh. It still got like a pink color to them. Next to it, I was finding rocks, which looked like these rocks had been used to split this bone, and the marrow be taken out of it. Now, I know wild boar, they will eat bones, but there was not a single tooth mark on these. And when an animal bites and chews up bone, you get splinters, thin splinters of bone. These were like snapped and broken pieces. So I'm filming that. Across the main road into the other part of this forest, there's a huge areas, and I'm coming through this really thick patch of pine, and in the center of all this pine is loads of pine trees that are leaning down, crisscrossing one another all over the floor. I'm thinking it's probably wind, but then there's, the wind couldn't have just got the middle because all of the outside trees are fine. Very thick area. And I came into this horrendous, I've never smelled anything like this before. It was so strong of pneumonia, like a urine smell. And I've smelled every animal, boar and deer, fox, wolf. I've smelled lynx. This was very human, and it was so strong, almost eye-watering. So I'm thinking, that's strange. I come out of there and I come out onto this loggers road and realise I'm literally pretty much standing by this stump with this fox skull on it. So I'm like, wow, I'm back. So I start filming. I heard 3 consecutive wood knocks as I slipped down an embankment after filming this fox skull. And, I was expecting to hear no knocks the second time. It was quite a miracle that I'd hear these. And then I'm searching, and I come to this small, very thick area of pine, very dense. Probably about 1 meter off the ground is this twisted, arched. It's twisted in the middle and arched, like an arch branch stuck inside of the branches of these pine trees. And it's very small, so I'm on my hands and knees, and I'm noticing this hasn't fallen. This has been, pushed into there, like, to make this arch. And right behind it are these little 5-inch prints. So I get around, I push through, and I'm noticing, 4 or 5 of these little 5-6-inch prints. They're tiny and perfectly shaped little feet. I'm blown away at this point. And then I'm finding 8-inch prints with them. And I'm also finding very little structures, little pleated branches, probably about a meter high. And it really felt like I'd come into some kind of nursery area where they'd been left, young ones, to kind of practice what they do, do smaller structures like the adults do. So I came out of there automatically finding 14-inch prints around this area. And I thought, I'm just going to take a sit down. And there's a log there that I thought I'd sit on, and it was so rotten, I fell into this log, and it made this big crack. And as I fall into this log, I hear bipedal footprints right in front of me run through this really dark, shadowed patch of pine forest. And it's the first time in my life I got really, uneasy about stepping into the forest. I spend all my hours in the forest. I love it. It's my kind of go-to area, my peace area. And it kind of was like a wall. It hit me, and thought to myself, do I really want to go in there? Like, I've just heard these bipedal prints crashing through, pretty much crashing through the trees there. So I was on edge, and I pushed in anyway. And automatically I'm finding different broken structures, things stuck into the side, branches literally pushed into the side of trees. You can clearly see it's a different type of branch that's stuck into the side of this tree. And then every time I'm walking, I've got this horrendous feeling of I'm out of my league kind of thing here. I shouldn't have come in here, and I can hear footprints either side of me, walking either side. Every time I walk, they walk. I couldn't pick up on my camera. It was so soft how they were walking, but I could clearly hear them. Just after this, I don't want to go left and I don't want to go right. I'm really on edge at this point. And feel really vulnerable at that point. And I come back out of this really dense patch of pine, and there's this huge, in some more pine tree, but a bit more open. In front of me is this huge ash tree. And I have a full video of this. And it's been snapped, twisted, and it curves, and then it curves around the back of this other pine tree. This is a huge break structure. And where this ash tree is bent, and then it kind of comes down to the ground, it's pinned then underneath this huge kind of X kind of figure 4 structure of a green pine tree that probably 4 or 5 inches across, snapped probably about 1.5 meters high. Fresh break. I mean, whatever's done this has got major power. There's a few more little structures there in another tree. And then there's another bone. And it's a deer bone. It looks a bit like a human bone, actually. But it's like a femur bone of a deer. And it's been clearly snapped straight in half. It's got not a single bite mark to it. All the marrow has been taken out of it. That's what it looks like. It was an old bone, but it looked like it'd been broken to get the marrow out. So I leave this, just as I'm leaving this area, there's this huge, I think, 14-inch print and it's pushing the pine needles down flat. I couldn't recreate this. The weight that has done this in this print, and it's a really good print. So I leave that area, and I'm just filming this another stump with a pine cone stuck in the side. And I think Duke, he'd mentioned they find this quite often. Just get a random pine cone stuck in the side of a tree stump. So I'm just filming this. At this point, I've got 30% battery on my phone. This is the only thing that I will never understand. I just look down to leave, and I look back at my phone, my camera phone, and it's dead. I can't even turn it on. Completely dead. 30% battery is just instantly gone. So, I put my phone in my bag, and I'm just walking back out now, coming towards this fox skull. And this is what, I look down at my footing, it's kind of knee height grass there, like along this track. It's an old loggers road. Nobody walks down there, but about knee height, calf height grass. I just look down, split second, and as I look up, it's there. It's just ran across in front of me, across this track. And it's just about to disappear onto my left-hand side behind all these fir trees, like Christmas trees. And it's just come from the right-hand side, which is all very dark pine. I think about this every single day. There was absolutely zero confusion what this was. I pretty much instantly realized what I was looking at, and it was extremely fast. I probably only saw it for about a second, but a second's quite long. If you count one, it's enough to get a clear picture, of it disappearing behind this fir tree. It was a female. I feel it was a female anyway. I'll tell you why. It was not very big. It was only 5'7", 6 foot at the most. I'm 5'7". This was not much bigger than me. And I've also heard a lot of reports here that they are a little bit smaller in Europe. It had got very chestnut, dark coloured hair. The light shining off it, you could see all its muscles. And I'll go into detail now about that. But it was very ginger in the light. My colour kind of shined to this fur. I didn't see a face. It had already just managed to get behind part of this fir tree. I did see the top and back of her head. She hadn't got like a cone on her head like some of the males in America, but it was very flat, but came back to a pretty much a 90-degree point at the back of the head. Very flat back of the head, very short neck on it. Shoulders were absolutely huge. You could see all the muscles in the shoulders. The left arm had just managed to get, the left hand had just managed to get behind a lower down branch. I could just see the back of her right elbow on her back, behind her back. She was slightly leaning forward. Just under her shoulder, she slightly curved inwards, but she got a very large bum. Her butt was big, and I always laugh at that, but it was very round. Her thighs. That's why I think it was a female, because of her, her back end. Her thighs were huge. I've said before they were probably two of my thighs put together. Her left knee had just managed to get behind some of these fir tree branch lower towards the bottom, and her right foot was just still left behind. I just caught her kind of pick up that right foot and move, and then her left part of her left leg just was the last kind of thing I saw. I couldn't see her feet because of the long grass. Major strong. I mean, this thing it wasn't very tall at all, but it would have ripped me apart really if it wanted to, I'm sure. Mega strong thing. There's nobody out there messing around with suits on or anything like that in Germany. People don't look for Bigfoot here or anything. I know what I saw, and I literally sprinted. I was thrown back at first, and then I just let all hell loose, and I just ran. I just had to see this again. I knew I couldn't film it or anything. I just had to see her again, and it's only 25 feet away from me where I saw her, not far at all.
Oh, that's very close.
It was clear as day. I could see all of her hair, how her hair was, formed across, and how it flowed with the body. It was very short hair, uniform to a body, nothing scraggly or rough about it. I'm sprinting up this track to try and get to her. I want to see this, and trying to get up there so fast. It feels like I'm not moving anywhere. And I get there, I get to this exact fir tree. She's disappeared. as she actually passed behind the fir tree, I could still see part of her mid-waist, going between, like a Christmas tree kind of. You can still see her mid-waist passing behind. And I get there, and there's nothing, there's no sound. I'm listening, I'm looking frantically left and right to see if I could see her again. I couldn't smell her, I couldn't see her, couldn't hear anything. I've heard some theories on this. People have said some things about it. I just think she really outflanked me. I think as I'm running up this track, she just passes back down my left-hand side behind these fir trees. Probably puts as I'm running up there, she probably just, jumps back across this loggers road behind me, me completely unaware, and back into this really thick, dark, very dark pine tree area there. It was amazing. I'll never forget it, what I saw. And I think about this every day. You can never forget that. It's one of my greatest experiences ever, really, because, people go their whole lives and don't see anything like this. And, I just, I've been finding all their tracks and their structures. They'd clearly been watching me all day. I believe there was 2 of them at the time. I said to Rob and Tex on their show, I've had a bit of a theory, because I could have walked up that track and she didn't need to cross in front of me. She could have just sat in that dark patch of pine, and I'd have walked past there, and I'd have never have known any different. I'd never have seen her. It always got me why she had to do that. Why did she pass in front of me? Why didn't she just let me walk past? And I've heard a lot of, there's ancient kind of stories of tribes, in Africa, the men, the people who go out and they'll try and touch a male lion and try and get away with it, become a man. In Native Americans, they used to try and touch the enemy and get away to become, prove themselves. That kind of sat there. Look, I kind of see it. The pair probably sat there. So, oh look, he's coming up here now. I'm going to try and pass in front of him without him noticing me. As a test, and she failed it. Because I managed to notice her. So, we used to play a game like that in England. It was called Fox and Hounds. You'd have one person trying to catch your friends. You try and get back to a base before getting spotted. And you'd have to pass in front of them and hide. It was probably it could have been 2 young ones that were, just trying to up their, their hiding skills, I suppose. Ever since I saw that, pretty much 10 minutes now, I'll go into this area and I'll hear a wood knock. Without fail, probably 10 minutes I'll be in there. Then, a couple of months later, or probably a couple of months later, sitting in this area, I call it the gallery, this area. This is probably about 30-40 minute hike away. There's structures everywhere, and some of them are tiny. And I'm just sitting on this rock. And as I just turn to my right-hand side, and I've just covered all this area, I've just researched all this area. I was finding some huge prints. I think some of them probably were 16 inches there. And I don't think you got the picture, but I managed to take a picture of one standing in the background. But I only got that off a video. I just noticed it in the video that I'd filmed. And then I've been back to this area and there's nothing there. And I know the exact area of where I'd filmed that. And there's nothing that remotely looks like this figure standing there, pretty much hidden in the background there. I also tried communicating with them, trying to talk to them. And I've had them knock, literally answer me talking just loudly to them with a knock. And as I'm sitting on this rock, I just come out of this area there and I just turn to my right-hand side and notice the back of her head and shoulders dip down behind this embankment there. And I know it was no deer, or anything. They'd have been long gone. I've just come from this area. Deer don't hang about here. If they see you, there's quite a few hunters and that, like, still. It was the same colour fur. I think it was probably the same one, probably the same female, yeah. And like I say, there's structures everywhere in this one area, in this particular area. Some of them are really artistic as well, quite beautiful structures. Plaited branches, small branches intertwining up and over one another. You get these lock twigs, that hold it all together, and it's just balancing there, off the ground. But it's all like a lock, and how they do it, it's fascinating, really. Some of them you'd walk straight past, you wouldn't even notice. Some of them are big, you do get the big ones too, but they're a bit more seldom, really. Yeah.
Yeah, as you bring up the tree structures, Matt, let's bring up his pictures. And Tom, why don't you narrate these for us and tell us what we're seeing?
Sure. As I said in private, when we were private before, this looks like nothing, and there is a video to this. This is last weekend. The 23rd. This was on. So this is in the first snowfall. I've got this on YouTube. The full video. It looks like nothing. I said to you I was having trouble sending like proper videos longer than 20 seconds on email. But if you, I don't know, if people see my videos, they'll understand. If this is about a 2 meter high or 2 meter long branch, it's huge, really, and it's upside down. If you look towards the top, you can see the growth of the branches that came off that main branch. They're pointing downwards, and branches on a tree, they point upwards and outwards when they grow. This has been pushed down to the ground. I didn't pull it out, but a guess over a foot. I'm often finding these upside down branches pushed into the ground. Some of them I have pulled out before. They've been going into the ground over 12 inches. So deep, and I know people will say sometimes branches will fall off a tree and land like this. That one there is completely counterweighted at the top. That would have either if that fell, that would have landed flat, or it would have landed on that heavier end. That's completely been pushed into the ground. And if you stand at one, I find these a lot. They're very common in these two valleys. If you stand at one, you'll always find another one, and it will just be out of view. But when you get to that other one, you can just make out the one you've come from. And if you look further into the distance, you'll usually find more. And they're kind of like markers. I call them markers. None of them have been cut by any tools. They've all been snapped, broken. Like I say, there's a big one, and sometimes they're not so big, but that there is probably one of the better ones. Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. You can definitely tell, even with just this camera shot, that's a piece that has been turned upside down. And we have those in Alaska, except in Alaska, it's entire trees.
Oh, they're amazing. I've seen them. I've not seen them with my eyes, but I've seen them on programs, and I'd love to go and actually visit them one day. Yeah, amazing things.
Up here, it's seen as a heavy warning.
Yeah.
Down and these are found mostly down in the southeast. All right, let's. Matt just pulled up the next one, so let's go with this one.
Yeah. So this is a small kind of teepee structure. Again, over here they're making them quite a lot smaller. Some of these structures, I found similar structures like this that are huge, but this is a very common thing to find. They're all interwoven at the top. If you can see, they all come up to a point at the top. And again, there is a longer video of this where I walk around it and I just show that every one of those lengths is just balancing on the ground. They've all been snapped. There's no roots to them. There's no fall there's nothing they can fall from in this location. If I remember correctly, this one had 5 or possibly 6 uprights, all plaited in together at the top. I've heard some people saying, I kind of like that theory that this is done as a group member thing, that each member resembles themselves with a different upright branch. I don't know if that's true, but it kind of would make sense. It's usually about 5 to 6 branches put together at the top. Like I say, this actually is the area, I call it the gallery. Right in front of that print, that structure is a print. I can't remember what it was. It might have been a smaller print, about 13 inches. There's all around these areas there's prints, very easily to find. I can walk across this matter and leave not a trace. Whatever. This is my theory as well on prints. Sometimes you only find one, and people will wonder, why is there only one print? I have a theory they just do something like a stomp, a 1 foot stomp, a dominance thing maybe. I don't know. It's all theory, I suppose.
That's quite possible.
Yeah, I mean, even on wood knocks, I have a theory. Wood knocks, there are legends here of the Bigfoot here, all over Europe, and I've heard them also from some of the tribes in America. That some of the Bigfoot they've been seen carrying clubs, or tree clubs. That could be the possibility of wood knocks, but nobody's really ever seen one do a wood knock. So, and I've tried to do wood knocks, and it's an art. You've got to know the right kind of club to use, the kind of dry wood. You got to find the right tree. It's quite a difficult thing to do. I've always said it could be something they do with their tongue. It's just a theory of mine that it could be done with a tongue. Here in this area, there's wood knocks all the time. Here's a more of a larger teepee structure. These are all pine trees that are leaning up an oak tree, a young oak tree. Every single one of them that is leaning up that tree has no roots. It's not a windfall. There's no roots there. There's no stumps close by at all. They've all, again, this is just a bigger kind of version of the last one.
Are there any cave structures around here in your research areas?
Caves?
Yeah.
There is, there is caves around. I've not found them, but I've heard that there are caves in certain areas, especially in the Hearts. There's caves up there, but there is a lot of old mines, and whether these have been sealed off, but you do see the odd mine about, but they're usually sealed off. But whether there's other entrances into these areas, hidden.
Sorry, I meant to say cave systems, not cave structures. I apologize.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. I haven't seen any, but I have heard that there are caves in areas. In the Hearts, there's caves there. But like I say, there's a lot of mines, old mines. They've been sealed off, most of them. But who knows? There's probably entrances to get in these areas.
That's a great teepee structure pick.
Yeah. Yeah, these are some. See, sometimes you will get the very massive X's here. These are a smaller version of the X, and often they've been placed on a Y structure, like an upright Y structure. If you see on the left hand side, I know on the right hand side there's an upright. It looks like it's been cut by an axe, but that's an actual break. On the video, I show it's a proper break. There's no tool marks been used for these or anything. Like I say, a lot of the crosses they've been put on a Y. Not all of them. Sometimes they have a center piece that's a Y going up in the center. from this one, there is a second one behind on one of my videos. This is the second one of the two. This is common find really, and also some of the bigger ones. I'll always go and check that it's not just the wind. Trees fall in the forest, can be a common thing. That two, just fall and look like a big cross. But I always go and look for the roots. I always check out the roots to see, that it's not just a windfall. Some of the other big structures are just like leaning trees that have been ripped out, and they're just leaning up against another tree. It's another common find, and I find if you follow the high point of these leaners, they're called, you'll find a second leaner, and that will usually lead you to an area of structures, like a patch of structures. And often in these patches of structures, you'll find, the pleated branches, the plaited branches, very artistic work, some little twists and lock, kind of, like I said before, lock twigs that hold it all together, and a lot of crosses, smaller crosses. I think they do it smaller here just because, we haven't got the vast forests of the US and Alaska, Canada. The forests here are huge; they're all connected, but I just feel they try and keep more low profile here. They're not low profile. If you know what you're looking for, it's everywhere. But just so that not a lot of people notice what they're looking at, kind of thing. If you see some of these massive teepee structures, it's very noticeable to anybody. If you're into Bigfoot or not, you're going to be kind of drawn to it. Yeah, so I just feel they do it on a smaller scale here more often. Yeah, this is a juvenile print. The heel is on the left. This was taken maybe last month, but you can see how flat that ground is. These are areas in the forest where boar churn up masses of areas of leaf, and they're really, really castable areas. Is why I always go to them, because it really helps. Because if you're just casting on leaves, you probably know you just get this huge ball of matter. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist, I want the kind of toe indentations and things.
Good picture.
So this is actually coming into one of these really where the boar have churned up the earth with their tusks. Again, I find a lot of my prints in these areas, whether they're using these areas to hunt a boar. It's very possible that they're coming there and hunting the boar in the night. There is a couple of the prints on this in the same area that I've got. I just thought I'd send you the better picture. I walk across this mud, you barely leave a track. This is some serious weight. I think this was only, I can't remember how long this was. It could have been only 11 inches. That's why I say it's probably a juvenile. As I'm filming that, I feel like a pressure behind me of being watched. And I just turn the camera to my left and hear a wood knock, like it's clear as day. Like something signaling to me, like I see you. I know what you're looking at. You're looking at my prints from last night, kind of thing.
Right.
It was there. So yeah, that's one of the good prints. The toes are on the right hand side. It's a bit hard to see in the light. Like I say, all this is on video. I do have the videos for them. I just couldn't send it really. Well, I measure them properly. And
yeah, this is a really good picture. And for our viewers, we will be putting a link to Tom's YouTube channel, so we encourage you to check it out.
Right, this is one of the bigger boys. This is I could be wrong, but I'm sure this is one of the 17 inches. If you look at the top of the picture, you can make out that big toe and the second toe, and then as it curves to the right, you can just make out the faint outline of the other toes. Very long. The ball on these are measuring at around 6 inches wide. The heel often about 5.5, 5 inches wide. You know, again, this is down another area where boar have been churning up the ground. It's like sponge walking on it, really. But you know, I barely leave a print when I'm walking across it. This was actually a set of 6 different prints all the way down this one track, and they were all with the big toe. You know, I think this could have been the when I'd gone back to try and cast, because there is another picture coming up of a print which was part of the 6, and this is when I went back, they'd all washed away, but there was 2 more prints heading back up this track. I say track, they're like an old loggers road. Nobody walks down them. But you know, that was one of the good ones. Yeah, this is another one. This is one of the 6 from this is the same area. Basically, like I said, I'd found these prints going down this track where boar had been digging it up. I didn't cast them, it was going dark, and I got a wild boar probably 100 meters away from me going absolutely crazy, and I just thought, well, I'm getting out of here, and I couldn't wait to get back. I got back about 3 days later. The rains had come, washed everything away, but there was 2, like I say, that last print was one of the sets of 2 that was going back up, but this is one of the prints from the first time I was in this area finding that set of 6. You can see to the top left again the big toe, toes curling round to the right. This is measuring around 16 inches. They'd got a gait of around 72 inches. You know, that's like almost 3 meters. I think maybe a bit more than 3 meters. That's huge. Often as well, you can see how the grass has been pushed down in, or you've got the flatter leaves, you know, very flat, you've been pushed down, where the matter around is very loose. Again, this is one of the 6. This is connected to the last one in the same track. Again, it's another right foot. You can see the toes at the top. Big toe again on the left. I really wanted to cast this, you know, and like I said, it was going dark. I had to get back. My girlfriend was somewhere in the forest taking pictures of birds, and I got very nervous, and I had to go back and find her to tell her I'm coming back to cast these. As I managed to find it and get back there, it was going dark, and it took me ages to try and find them again because of the light, how it just dropped, you know. And now I carry little flags, so I just when I find a print, I mark it out.
Oh, good idea.
Measure it, you know, and then I don't lose or step back on it, you know.
Really good idea.
Yeah, I usually put a little flag at the front of the toe on the first one, and then the back heel of the second, so I can measure the gait in between, you know.
Excellent, good strategy.
Yeah, very good idea. So we do have some videos to show too. You want to get into that right now?
Yeah. For me, I don't mind.
Okay.
It's your show. But yeah, we can do it. Yeah, this is, like I say, this is, I could only spend 20 seconds. I actually go to every one of these upright. I think at the end of this, you just make out that I'm just showing you that it's not connected to anything on a single upright there. Yeah. I in the video, I actually move all of the leaf away just so that you can see that there's literally, you know, it's not a break or anything like that.
Yeah, it's just sitting on top of the ground, and it's not cut with a machine, it's snapped.
No.
We can run it again.
Yeah.
And this is the tree structure from the slideshow, the big tree structure from the slideshow.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Later on, just behind this, you can actually see it from here, is a nice act as well that I filmed. You know, all in the same area. This is in, that was in one of the biggest forests in my county that was there, which is not far away. I basically live in between the biggest forest in Hessen and then the Harz Mountains, you know, which is really close as well, 40-minute drive away.
You have found yourself some fantastic research areas. You've got the tree knocks, you've got visuals, you got vocalizations.
Yeah.
Congratulations, you have found some great
Oh,
areas.
thanks.
Now, let me turn things over to Matt up there in Washington, and and great pictures and just fascinating accounts. And when you mentioned, sorry, madam, I'll get to you in a second. I apologize. You mentioned the phone going dead on you. So our partners, William Lunsford and Stephen Hill down in Arkansas, we finally came up for a term with the electronic interference. We call it cryptid electronic interference.
Yeah.
CEI. We finally, it's happened so much and so often to
Yeah.
so many different researchers that we figured, we need a term for it, so we came up with CEI, cryptid electronic interference. So
I like it.
I am quite convinced that what happened to your phone was exactly that.
Yeah, I'd never had that before. I'd never. And it just happened about 2 minutes before I had my sighting, and I was blown away. That's the only part of the whole thing that, it's unbelievable. Like, it sounds ridiculous in a way that your phones or your cameras can just die, but it happened to me. So, and I had no explanation for it. But it happens. This is a real phenomena. I've always said, to me personally, there's a lot of different theories on the Wildman, and to me, I really do believe they are a relic hominin. I think the DNA supports that, and the fact that there was a time where humans and Neanderthal and Denisovan, they were all living together, in different areas, seeing one another. And I just really feel that it's probably don't get me wrong, I do believe they've adapted things that we can't even understand. They live out there for millennia, whereas we've built houses and kind of, put ourselves away from the forest. They can move through that forest silently, outflank you. They hear you coming from a mile away, kind of thing. They've been doing it forever, hiding from us, and it's mind blowing. I've seen, like I say, I've seen a lot of UFOs, and I know there's a lot of fear. People say a lot of theories, or they think that UFOs and Bigfoot are connected. I'm not going to say they're not. I really don't know, but I would always say I've seen a lot of lights and orbs in the forest too, and if I've seen them, I know that the wild man have seen them because they live there. They will be there probably before you will. And if you see a UFO in the forest or orbs, and you're scared, I don't get scared too much out there, but when I see an orb, I get scared. And you're in that state of, hyper kind of adrenaline, and then you see a Bigfoot. I think your mind just puts two and two together and say they've both got to be related. But I just think as humans, we're very curious, and I think they're very curious too. And I think they've just been in the right place at the wrong time, basically. And that's kind of my intake on it. I could be completely wrong with that. Like I say, they can do crazy things. And if it, which I've experienced my phone dying. I mean, EMP kind of style. They could have infrasound. There's mammals out there with infrasound, echo location. There's some animals out there that can do some crazy things. I don't believe that they're an ape or a monkey. I don't believe that. I do believe they're more on our side of things. I know there's been DNA research coming out recently where they share female human DNA. and the male has been unknown. And I've always said, every time DNA has been found, and it's always come back as being contaminated with human, I've always thought it's probably just because it's part human, and they've kind of thought, oh well, it's contaminated with human, so but I don't think it is a contamination. I think it's just because they probably share the same DNA as us. We have Neanderthal and Denisovan in us. So, and it's always from the female Homo erectus, Homo sapien, so it's always like the male side is Neanderthal or the male side is Denisovan. So it would make sense to me that it was probably, a relic hominin that's just been surviving out there. Some probably more along the lines of, I know it won't be something like Neanderthal, but it'd probably be something more like Paranthropus robustus or Paranthropus boise, something like that. Heidelbergensis, something a lot more primitive in its features. And you look a lot, if you look around museums and you see sculptures of even Neanderthal or Denisovan, if you cover them in hair, because they're usually portrayed pretty naked, but if you cover them in hair, they've got the kind of right, features, the very upper strength shoulders. The one I saw, shoulders are huge, that's just kind of my theory. I just kind of rambled on a little bit there about it, but
No, it's on. Actually, we were going to ask you, what is your theory about what these creatures might be? So, thank you for sharing that. Another thing that you mentioned in regards to your research area is and this is something I didn't know again about Europe, is the presence of wild boars. So that introduces a danger element in your research areas. And having known firsthand down in Arkansas doing research down there, I was actually chased up a tree by some wild boars down there. So the fact that there's so many wild boars in your area,
there's millions.
I had no idea. That's a dangerous area if there's wild boar there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always on edge about running into them, and the truth of it is, though, the countless thousands of hours I've been out there, I've never seen one, because they're usually they're doing their thing at night here. They're really active at night, and I just don't stay out after when that sun starts going down. I just get out of there, really. But people have been killed here by boar. They really will savage you. They will attack, and chase you down. So and I'm always on my own out there. I'm never on a beaten path. I'm always off the beaten path. It's always been probably my biggest concern is running into wild boar.
Yeah,
they're incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, I've got some tusks in my cabinet here. This is actually something I found, which I always thought was pretty interesting too. And again, it was coming down an old loggers track, and I'd seen something white sitting in the center of this track at a distance. And I'm looking at it like, what's that? Like a plastic bag or something, that's blown there. And I get there, and it's a full jaw of a wild boar. That is huge, and its tusks, they're like 3-4 inches long. Wasn't strange. Well, it's a cool find. What was strange about it is, if I thought, what's put that there? It's like a person put that there, like, in the center. And if a person's put that there, why haven't they taken the teeth? Because that's the first thing I'd do. I pull the tusks out and take them home, which I did. They came out very loosely. The bone was very bleached white, been in the sun a while. But the whole strange part about it was it was in two halves. The whole jaw had been broken in half down the middle, and then placed back together and just left in the middle of this track. You know, as I'm walking down the track, I was pretty blown away by it. Why, if somebody had done that, it might be that a person had done it, but anyway, I took the teeth out of it, you know, and brought them home, kind of thing. You find strange things like that here. Very, you know, like weird findings.
I wonder if that jaw being in the middle of the road, you know, maybe related to the same kind of behavior with the fox skull on the stump.
It's possible. It's very possible. Yeah. I actually never thought about that, really, putting them kind of together, but you do find stuff like that. You'll find a bone up in the tree and things like that, you know, and weird kind of weirdness. Sometimes I'll find tree stumps with feathers pushed into them. You know, how can a feather? I'm in the middle of nowhere. I've never seen anybody off the beaten track. And you'll come across a stump, and there'll be little feathers stuck into the stump. You know, like it's like artwork. You know.
Have you introduced gifting into your research yet?
I have literally underneath that smaller kind of teepee structure that we were talking about of the picture, the smaller one. There is a rock right there, and this is now my gifting rock, where I'll go to this and leave like a marble. I never leave plastic or anything. Yeah, I put like a snail shell on there, a piece of quartz stone, you know, natural things really. I've been meaning to go back. I did go back a week later, which I think was too soon, and nothing had changed. So, and then I got so caught up with other places that I still need to go back, really, and you know, do that area again. Like I say, there's wood knocks there, and I've had I had a really good picture taken there of one standing in the background, and also I had the second sighting as I'm sitting at that small structure to my right hand side. And the rock is literally, as I'm sitting there, it's next to me, and I'm thinking about this make a good gifting stone. And I just turned and saw the second sighting of one just duck down behind this embankment there. Yeah. So yeah, I have started gifting. But like I say, I've just got to go back and really check it out again, and probably leave more stuff or rearrange it if it's not been taken. You know.
Nice. We're looking forward to hearing how that turns out. Matt, I kind of cut you off earlier, so let me throw the ball back over in your yard before we close.
Yeah, I'm just going to question with the talk of the sort of the anthropology aspect of the beings that you're seeing in your area, and knowing that the forests are all connected, and the further east in Europe you go, the denser they get.
Yeah.
Do you think it's possible that they move around, like they would leave central and southern Germany and move east into Poland, and then back?
I don't think the same groups do. I think they've probably got their own groups. I think this is every forest I'm going into. I'm finding structures and different size prints. I think this is really a huge thing. I think there's a lot of them. I've got a guy. He's down in the Swiss Alps, in the French Alps at the moment. He's just recently got in touch with me, and you know, we're communicating a lot. He's finding amazing things. When he started sending me these pictures of what he's finding in small videos, I thought he was taking a joke. I thought he was joking. I thought he was sending my stuff back to me. It was identical stuff he's finding. I was blown away. And I've realized it's not. It's all his genuine stuff. He's finding exactly the same things I'm finding down there. And it's really all over. I know even in Russia, people. You've got that. I think it's Dr. Berksev. His name is. He's also finding very similar things. These plaited branches and things. Every country's got its own name. Even going into Spain. Bazajuan, they call it down there. They possibly do migrate. I personally think it's like a seasonal winter thing. They just kind of probably get out of the snow to, so they don't leave their prints as much, and they probably head down into warmer valleys. But I think it's all pretty local. I don't think they're really moving that far. They could be. I wouldn't know. The guy down in the French Alps, he's finding exactly the same things, but he's also finding different things too. So it's hard to say.
Maybe more of a regionalized
Yeah.
family dynamic, or like even like sort of culture.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard the 2 times they did the chatter, I've said, it was similar to the Sierra Sounds with Ron Moorhead. Similar, but it was nowhere near the same in a way. It was not. It hadn't got these really high pitch and low pitches. It was very flat, but very fast. They were different words, but very fast. And like I say, animals can do kind of one tone, but I'd hear it from a very high pitched female voice do this. My hairs were honestly standing on end when I heard that. When I heard it from a male voice, very low, very deep, it didn't actually scare me that much. Like, I'm not scared of being out there. I'm not scared of them. I want to see them. The fact that I got to see one, to me, it's a miracle. That was something I'll treasure forever. And I've always said, if I never saw another one, I would understand. I've had my chance. But I'd love to see them again. I'd love to get closer to them, really, if I could.
Yeah, it's special.
Yeah, it's very special. And my encounter was non-threatening. I know I've had some pretty terrifying encounters with them. I think they probably do play on your fear. I've heard this from others, and animals, anything really can sense. When it's wild, they're not animals. They're more human, but I think when you're living in the wild, you sense. You can kind of sense, even if you look at an animal, that it's going to attack you or not. I think, and I think they can sense your fear. I really do. A horse. I used to ride horses a lot, and a horse. I'd never got any fear of riding horses. I was always fine. My sister, she'd always got a bit of fear, and the horses would play up on that. They'd know straight away if you were scared, and they'd start doing silly things, trying to throw you off. And I really do think that they can pick up on your fear. So if you're going out there and you're on edge, I think they could just try and scare you away, and be pretty intimidating.
That is quite possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Tom Coburn, Trails in the Woods, Searching for the European Wildman. We are looking forward to hearing what the coming year brings for your research, and we definitely want to have you back on the show.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. We know it's evening there. And so, yeah, we definitely want to have you back, and we look forward to hearing more fascinating stories. Thank you for sharing tonight.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I'll, like I say, when the more I find, I'll keep you posted with it. I don't mind emailing some more pictures and things. I really will work out somehow of getting more video across to you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. So for our viewers, there will be like we said, there will be a link in the description to Tom's YouTube channel. So we encourage you to check it out. So for myself, Daniel Becker in Anchorage, Alaska, for my fellow host in Quincy, Washington, Matt Slater, thank you so much for joining us. Tom Coburn from Hessen, Germany, thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.